Good morning, good evening, or good night, depending what time you are watching this and where in the world you are. Guys, hope you are well and welcome to the player ratings for the match today. It was Forest finishing one apiece with Valencia. And what a great game it was. Much different to all the previous preseason games that we have seen, and a stronger Forest lineup being put out against an outstanding Valencia team. Guys, if you're new here, as always, do not forget to give the video a quick like if you are happy with the Forest result. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and put those notifications on so you know when we go live, because anytime there is breaking news for Forest, we'll be here to tell it to you. Let's get into this, boys, and let's look at the players who played tonight and how they performed. Let's start by giving you guys a quick overview of how the match went and a few chances that were created. It's fair to say that both teams came out straight off the bat with the intention of scoring and winning the game. It was a real end-to-end game to start with, and I would say that Valencia made one of the best chances to start with, where Guedes, who I'd pointed out in the match preview, went on a run down the right-hand side, took a low shot towards Henderson's left-hand side, and Henderson was more than a match for it, saving it low with his left arm, popping it up in the air and catching it for a fine save. Forest did create a lot of chances through Jesse Lingard early on in the match, and he was not afraid to pick the ball up on the edge of the box, especially with the space that was being created by Johnson drifting out wide to the right-hand side. This gave Jesse that pocket to work in and around the edge of the box, and he had about 3 or 4 shots from there. The highlight of which being his first one, which he hit low to the keeper's left, just missed for the wrong side of the post. It was a great start and debut performance by Jesse Lingard. Arguably the best chance of the first half from a Forest perspective came to Sam Surridge, where Nico Williams found Johnson with a lovely ball down the right hand side. The keeper overcommitted, coming out nearly halfway up the pitch, and Johnson was able to go around him. He ended up drifting wide to the right near to the throw-in line and had to cross the ball in from there, which allowed the keeper to start working his way back into the goal. Surridge was at the far post, headed it back where it came from. Unfortunately, hit the post and wasn't able to convert it. The goal itself was a bit of a frustration to see us concede. Again, it was coming down their right-hand side, the left-hand side for us. And the breakaway through where where the ball went down the wing, Guedes was able to cross it to the far post. It went over Worrall's head. Williams hadn't recovered back quick enough. And then Soler, the guy I was worried about, coming in from the edge of the box, low volleyed it home to the bottom left. Not much that Henderson could do to stop that. And that went 1-0. Couple of changes after the break. We saw Awoniyi come on, and he really did change the game. Surridge had a fantastic first half, but Awoniyi coming on with his strength was able to hold the ball up so well in the corners. He just wasn't able to link Toffolo into the overlaps at that stage. However, the goal came from a lovely ball from McKenna into the channel. Awoniyi showed a lot of pace and a lot of strength to hold off the Valencia defenders. One look up, he saw Brennan Johnson coming in towards the far post. A bit similar in position to where we saw Brennan Johnson scoring the first goal for us against Sheffield United in the second leg. He found a low ball across the goal, passed it into Johnson's path, and he wasn't going to miss from there. Literally 3 minutes later, the exact same scenario happened. Awoniyi managed to get in behind on the left-hand channel, pulled the ball across, identical, I thought they were showing a replay of it, into Johnson's path. Johnson shot, but unfortunately this time he hit the keeper. Johnson was looking fantastic today, playing in his correct position and not in the cam roll. That's the match summary in a nutshell, boys. Let's move on to the player ratings and let's talk about how the Nottingham Forest players performed, starting with our goalkeeper Henderson. Henderson is an absolute hell of a signing. I say this every time. I wish we had that 20 million fee agreed at the end of the loan period for him, because he'd be an absolute steal at it. He absolutely commanded the box. At one stage, he absolutely outskilled the Valencia attacker who put pressure on him 2 yards out. He fake kicked the ball, turned to his left and took it away from him. It was a fantastic bit of play from Henderson. Henderson, overall, I'm going to give him an absolute solid 8 out of 10 performance. because he was absolutely fantastic. If you disagree with me, let me know. But the only way you can disagree is if you want to knock that score up. Moving on into the defence, and let's talk about McKenna. McKenna overall had a very good game, but I felt he was either being overexposed because Toffolo tended to just be way too high up the pitch, leaving McKenna in this area here having to command, and the overload coming from Valencia, who spotted this quite early on, was causing a few issues. It wasn't because McKenna was playing bad, it was more to do so with Toffolo, who we'll get onto, playing too high up the pitch and not getting back in time. This is where the Valencia goal came from to start with. The cross came in from this side over to the far post, and that's what caused the issue, was that Toffolo wasn't back making that 5 in there. You could argue that McKenna could have pulled across a bit to the left here just to cover the channel, and then Worrall and Cook move across into to kind of square up the spaces there. But overall, McKenna had an absolutely solid performance, and I would probably give him a safe and a sensible 7 out of 10 overall. Moving on to Steve Cook. Steve Cook, he really didn't really show anything in terms of, he wasn't noticeable, is probably the best way to put it on the pitch, but that's not a bad thing. I thought he played quite solid and played quite well. Out of the 3 defenders, I felt like he had the best performance. When he needed to put a tackle in, he did. He had a chance to score from, I think it was a corner in the second half. He's still got a lot to offer this team. Newcastle, obviously, by far and away, is the best defender we've got. But Steve Cook is not to be taken lightly, and Steve Cook still has a job to do for us throughout this long and tiring and precious season. So, Steve Cook, overall for me, solid performance, nothing to complain about. We'll give him a solid 7 out of 10 as well. Where I was having a few question marks was around Worrall. Worrall overall had a good game, but I just felt there was always potentially a mistake coming from him, And that was, I don't want to blame him for the goal because there's someone specifically who's at fault for the goal. But in terms of the way that Worrall was playing, it was quite solid. But unfortunately, I just kept feeling like there was a mistake in him. With the goal, he had found himself in the middle of the box, running. There was a striker running across the goal who he went to cover. He suddenly realised, looking up, that Williams hadn't got back as the cross came in over his head. And he ended up getting, I think, a bit in Henderson's way when the shot came in and blindsided Henderson to the shot to the near post. But he didn't have a bad game. He didn't have a bad game at all. I thought the defence in general, as in the 3 centre-backs, played fairly solid. But you did just find yourself quincing a couple of times when he got the ball, because his passing was a little off into the midfield. Overall, again, the 3 centre-backs, can't really separate them much. We'll give him a 7 out of 10. Let's move on to the wing-backs. Toffolo, for me, still has a lot of improvements to do. He's very, very good at getting forward. And what he does offer us is that more balanced approach where we're not totally dependent on the right-hand side for all our attacks to come through. However, it's almost gone too far in the wrong direction where he's almost playing like a left winger rather than a left wing back. I felt he was out of position a lot of the time on the counter-attacks from Valencia, where they ended up finding a lot of space and being able to overload on our left-hand side. And like I was saying earlier when we were talking about McKenna, I felt he was leaving McKenna with too much to do in that channel area on the left-hand side. And in essence, what you tended to find was that Toffolo was operating in and around this area of the pitch. I'd be interested to see a heat map on him, actually. And I don't know if it was just me noticing it more than it was really happening, but that's what it really felt like. There was a couple of times where Henderson saved him. It was the first instance where Guedes had that shot. The attack had come down this left-hand side, and Guedes found himself in a lot of space and able to run into goal with McKenna trying to chase him and close him down. Overall, attacking-wise, he offered some lovely crosses. Attacking positions was good, but he just needs to be reminded of his defensive duties, especially in the Premier League. He can't be caught sleeping high up the pitch. He has to put the hours in to bring himself back in contention, back into that defensive 5. Overall, I'm going to be a little harsh on him, and I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, just because I felt attacking-wise I'd be giving him something like a 7 or an 8, but defensively, he wasn't positionally correct where I'd like him to see. So I'll give him a 5 out of 10 for his performance. But bear in mind a couple of things. He hasn't been here long. Omar Richard is more likely going to be the player who's going to be the number one choice with Toffolo as backup. But Toffolo, someone needs to have a quiet word in the ear with him and just remind him, as soon as we've lost the ball, as soon as the oppositions are transitioning in the ball, he needs to turn back round and belt his ass back down the pitch. Nico Williams played really, really well. Again, attacking wise, he was fantastic with Johnson. You can tell they've played together before plenty of times. There was a lot of link-up played between not only him and Johnson, but him and Lingard and him and O'Brien as well, in and around the middle of the pitch. He provided a lovely through ball for Johnson, the one I described to you in the match review earlier, where Johnson crossed it to the back post for Surridge. That was instigated initially by Williams. Now, on the defensive side, he has made a couple of good tackles and he was getting back. However, when they scored the goal, I found that he was way too high up the pitch. The moment that Soler took the shot was the moment that Williams was just about getting back into the box. Had he been a little bit more on his toes and got back a little bit quicker, we may have been able to prevent that goal. So he was slightly at fault for that goal, I think. Not fully at fault. There's someone who annoyed me more about it, who we'll get onto in a second. Overall, I think it's fair to give him an 8 out of 10. Just because I love the link-up play he has with Johnson. He's slotted into that team very, very nicely. He had a couple of attempts on goal as well on the edge of the box, and he was doing that with his left foot. They were blocked at shot point by the Valencia defenders, who played really, really well. But overall, I think we got one hell of a player in Nico Williams, and I'm looking forward to that relationship with him and Johnson and Lingard developing as we progress throughout the season. Let's now get into the midfield and talk about Colback. Now, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, and I said it in the previous game as well, but I've got to be ruthless on my judging of all of the players. We've got to be non-sentimental this season about how players perform and whether or not they are cut out for the Premier League. He is not by any stretch of the imagination ready for the Premier League at all. His pace is just lacking. I find sometimes he's too far forward when he needs to be further back and too far back when he needs to be further forward. And I kind of found that today in the game. And he got caught in midfield at the start of the goal. The Valencia midfielder just bulldozed his way through the middle for about 15 yards and just shrugged Colback off with little effort at all, to the stage where Colback just let him go. I mean, he could have just fouled him and stopped the ball there. It's a friendly. I mean, the worst he would have got was a yellow card. But I didn't see him like busting a gut to get himself up against that player and prevent that attack. Now, someone like Mangala, when he comes into the team, would have been able to either catch that player up or have put a tackle in the first place. Colback just didn't put the challenge in. And overall, I wasn't that impressed with his performance. I almost felt like you got 100% effort out of him, like you always do. But overall, I didn't feel he was in the right place at the right time or where I'd want to see him on the pitch. You could tell there was a bit of chemistry developing between him and O'Brien. O'Brien was fantastic. We'll move on to him in a second. But Colback, for me, needs to be a squad player. A squad player where maybe when we're 1-0 up, he comes on to change the 2 in the middle into a 3 in the middle, just to shore it off. Maybe we're taking off one striker and changing into a 5-3-1-1 kind of thing. Excuse me. Or something like that for 10 minutes in the game. But to have him as a starter, I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed to see his name on the starting sheet. Obviously, Yates is still coming back from injury. I would rather Cafu had started, to be honest, than Colback. I'm going to give Colback, don't hate me guys, a 4 out of 10. He's not the right player for this team. I respect what he did for us last year, but I do remember the seasons where he first joined and how he wasn't up for it and how he shouldn't have been playing in that team. And I'm not holding a vendetta at him. I know the comments are going to go crazy about it, but we've got better players in there. And I'll be surprised if Colback is anywhere near the starting lineup come the Newcastle game. Ladies and gentlemen, Lewis O'Brien. What a signing he is. What a player he is. And what a footballer he is. Up and down, left and right, everywhere on the pitch you want him to be. Positionally fantastic. Real workhorse. Looking to get forward. Looking to link up the play and looking to break up the attacks from the Valencia team. I was thoroughly impressed and enjoyed his performance today. Could tell towards the end of the second half, he was getting knackered out. He'd put a shift in. But that's how you want your players to be. And those are the kind of players we endear ourselves to. He really, really does put in a good shift. And I think Coops has got a real problem on his hands. A good problem, should I say, between Mangala, Yates and O'Brien. He's got to pick 2 out of those 3. And potentially we've still got 1 or 2 more coming in. How's Coops going to decide between those? For me, O'Brien is a starter. He's a starter, especially away from home. I think he starts against Newcastle, and I think he's going to put in a hell of a performance. I was very, very impressed with him. And I'm going to give him a solid and well-earned 8 out of 10. Let me know if you agree with me in the chat below. Does he deserve an 8 or higher? Boys, let's move this along to the poster boy of the Forest team, Jesse Lingard. J-Lings, finally, we see him in the Garibaldi kit, and boys, he did not disappoint me one little bit. He is that piece of the jigsaw puzzle that has been missing throughout pre-season. Off the bat, he was driving the attack forward, wasn't afraid to shoot, linking in beautifully with Johnson, Surridge and Williams and Toffolo. All over the pitch. He came back. He put the effort in. He was defending when he needed to. And he was shooting. He wasn't scared to shoot. And I feel like we've been scared to shoot over pre-season. It was a joy to watch. His shooting needs a little sharpening. You can tell he's still got a bit of ring rust to it. There was a lot of lack of power in the shots. His first effort, like I said in the match report, was his best effort. He had 2 or 3 more that were just kind of didn't even really sting the keeper's hands. And they weren't even on target, to be honest. He pulled one to the left-hand side of the goal and another one to the right. He's a set-piece taker as well. He put in a few decent corners. Overall, Jesse Lingard is going to slot in this team straight away. The feeling I'm getting from Lingard is that he understands the position he's coming into this club at. He understands that this is an opportunity for him to be the man. We've seen him before at Man United where he's been a rotation player or a sub player or not used at all. He sees this, and rightly so, as an opportunity where he can come into the team and take the reins and really, really drive something special forward in Nottingham Forest. I can't wait to see this guy fully unleashed, fully match fit and fully ready to really, really perform for us. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. I think it's well deserving. He did come off. He was lacking in a full match time scenario in terms of fitness, but that's just going to come. And I think he's ready for Newcastle. And I put him second or third name on the team sheets. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to next week, boys. I really am. I'm feeling so much better after that performance we've seen today. So let's get into the strikers now. Okay, so starting with Sam Surridge, real solid performance, real workaholic. What we expect from him, game in, game out, he delivered and performed. He had that guillotine, it wasn't a guillotine chance, it's a little harsh. He had a really good chance with that header with the keeper recovering back to goal to put it into the back of the net and unfortunately hit the post. He obviously needs more game time because he's not fully match sharp, but I was impressed with him and I won't hear a bad word said about Sam. I think he's a fantastic finisher. His overall game needs a bit of work on in terms of his link-up play, maybe a bit more in terms of his passing. But overall, you can't argue with a solid 7 for Sam the man. And a good chance created as well. So I'm happy with that and we'll give him a 7 out of 10. Brennan Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with Coops. Steve-O. Thank you so much for not playing him in cam. Thank you so much for putting him back up front. Thank you so much for letting him play his game. He was outstanding today. Literally outstanding. The way he worked that channel. I don't know if it's because he's changed his hairstyle or if it's because he's back in his correct position or the haircut's the one from last season. But it was like watching Johnson in full flight like he was last season. Pace back on it, match sharpness back on it, match fitness back on it. Shooting, no problem, he was doing that. He was really, really giving the Valencia defence so many problems. And with him, Nico Williams and Lingard linking up even and forming those lovely triangles in and around the right-hand side of the pitch, it was opening up so much space. Him as well just drifting out to the right was opening up the middle of the pitch for Lingard to operate in. It's just, he's just made for that position. His goal was taken beautifully. If you had to be critical of him, the copy and paste 2 minutes later, he should have buried. But the performance in itself just outlines how good he was, and I can't do anything but give him a 9. If it scored the second one, I'm telling you now, it was a 10 out of 10 performance. Everything he did was spot on. I love this guy. I can't wait to see him develop over the next season. The partnership with Williams is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see how high he's going to reach this season. Let me know your thoughts on Brennan Johnson. 9 out of 10, boys. And that's probably me being harsh. Awoniyi came on in the second half, and boy did he come on with a point to prove. You could tell off the bat. You could almost feel like he thought his position was under threat within the team. He came on and got stuck straight in. Real strong at holding the ball up in the left-hand channel. Worked really hard and really tirelessly as well. And the run he made through from McKenna's ball was fantastic. It could have been Johnson in disguise the way he ran. But what he did that Johnson isn't as good at him as doing is hold the defender off who was trying to catch back up with him. Johnson was on a few times, there's a few lovely balls that came through from Lingard and Johnson where he got out-muscled a couple of times off the ball. Not the case with Awoniyi. Awoniyi used his strength to effect, got in behind the defence and put down a delicious pass across the goal for Johnson to square the match up at 1-1. And again, copy and paste, he did it again for the second, well, what would have been the second goal, but unfortunately Johnson missed it. I was really impressed with him. I feel his attitude came out there strong. I feel like he looked a lot more match sharp. Whether or not he's got 90 minutes in him, we will find out hopefully next week. I think that assist is as good as a goal for him. He looked so pleased with himself, and Johnson, to credit him, didn't go off and celebrate. The first thing he did was come across and acknowledge Awoniyi's part in that goal. It's really good to start to see some chemistry forming between the two. I'm going to give him a nice, solid, well-deserved 8 out of 10. Let me know if you agree with that in the chat below. In terms of the subs, we saw Cafu coming on. He didn't really have too much time to influence the game at all. So we won't go into the subs today, but obviously as we go into the Newcastle match, we'll be going a full-blooded analysis onto everything going on there. So overall, I am extremely happy with the performance of the boys. I was getting a bit frustrated on the stream with the likes of Colback and Toffolo, who I feel just need to sharpen up a bit in terms of their gameplay. But boys, we have the nucleus of a great team here. And more importantly, we have the greatest leader leading them in Steve Cooper. I really was a bit disappointed not to see Niakata on the pitch. For me, Niakata was that missing ingredient, and it would have been good just to get another 80, 75 minutes under his belt to see how he would perform. Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the analysis of the pre-match, or the post-match, should I say, player ratings against Valencia. Really enjoyed the game, and now it's business time. From here on in, boys, the focus is our first Premier League game against Newcastle. I can't believe that it feels like yesterday we were celebrating the win against Huddersfield, and here we are, 7 days away, 6 days away from Newcastle. We have so much to bring you this week on the channel in terms of the build-up to the Newcastle match, as well as the usual stuff of the transfer news and everything like that. So make sure, if you've enjoyed this analysis, please do hit the like button as well, and subscribe if you're new. Anytime something big breaks on Forest, we'll be bringing it to you first. But you are not going to want to miss the build-up we've got for you guys for the Newcastle game this Saturday, 3 p.m. We'll be doing the watch-along as well. But stay tuned this week, boys. You are going to enjoy it. Thank you for watching. And guys, come on, you Reds.